for the Dance to Oneness podcast. Welcome to today's episode 44 or 45. I'm doing this today on Instagram Live and also going live from my StreamYard to Facebook, YouTube, and this will be converted as a podcast afterwards. So this is my podcast, the Dance to Oneness podcast. This is episode 44. Today's podcast is called What is Talking to Entities and Why Do It? So, welcome everyone joining on the live stream. So, some of you may know my name is Amy Shine, and I am an Access Consciousness Facilitator, firstly, and a Talk to the Entity Facilitator. So, what is a Talk to the Entity Facilitator? Talk to the Entity Facilitator is someone who facilitates talking to entities. And let's start with what is an entity? So an entity is anything that is defined, anything that has an identity is an entity. You are an entity. Your house is an entity. Your business is an entity. Now, you also have entities that are part of the spirit world. So when we are talking about talk to entities, we're talking about the spirit world. Now, the spirit world, or what I call the spirit kingdom, is vast. It's vast, it's diverse. It's not really something you can understand with your mind. However, the more you start to educate yourself about the spirit world and all the different facets of the spirit world and spirit kingdom, the more magical your life becomes. And also the more the world of spirit, the spirit world, becomes more accessible. So for many years, when you would say entities in reference to spirits, a lot of people would go into judgment and they'd be like, get rid of these entities, get rid of these spirits. But not all entities are bad, just like people aren't. Not all people are bad, not all spirits are bad, and not all are good either. So it's about having awareness. Like, what can having an awareness with the spirit world create for you? So for me, avoiding the spirit world, not having ignoring my awareness and not being educated about the spirit world created a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, a lot of mental anguish, a lot of mental illness. And Shannon O'Hara is the founder of Talk to the Entities, and she has stated so many times, which I have when she speaks to this, I'm like, thank you, that most people with mental illness have an awareness of the spirit world, but they do not have tools to deal with it. And my target is for anyone looking for it, educating yourself about the spirit world. So educate rather than medicate. And that's a whole other topic we can get into about mental illness in the spirit world. But personally, I had an awareness of the spirit world. I had no tools to deal with it. And I was instead made mentally ill. And once I began finally to use the tools of Talk to the Entities, it took me out of so much anxiety, so much wrongness, so much mental anguish. So that is my why. Why talk to entities? Because it makes my life easier. Why include the spirit world? Because if I don't include the spirit world, I end up crazy, insane. I end up making myself wrong. I end up with insomnia, racing mind. I end up with body issues that I can't seem to change. So for me, and for some of you watching, it may be a point where you have to include the spirit world. And, if you're looking to create a world of oneness and a world of consciousness, you have to include the spirit world, because consciousness includes everything. Oneness is including all words: physical, spiritual, emotional, all of it. So that is why talk to entities. Well, if you don't talk to entities, so here's the thing: how many of you are aware of the spirit world? How many of you are aware of the spirit world but don't want to be aware of the spirit world? What judgments do you have of the spirit world that keeps you avoiding your awareness of the spirit world? And is that actually making your life easier? Or is it making your life more difficult? Hi, Mike. So for me, having an awareness of the spirit world, but then not wanting to have that and judging the spirit world and judging that it'd be too much for me to handle, that I didn't want to deal with it, I didn't want to look at it, end up creating a lot of mental illness and sickness in other parts of my life. And when I finally started to educate myself about the spirit world through Talk to the Entities, through a lot of the specialty classes of Talk to the Entities, through the beginning class, the intermediate, the advanced, through constantly, and I'm still constantly educating myself about the spirit world, has created me having a lot more ease than I did when I was avoiding my awareness of the spirit world. So that's my why. Why talk to entities? Because it makes my life easier. So maybe have a look at it for you. What would including the spirit world create for you? And if you are willing to let go of your judgments, because let's face it, the only reason you're not including the spirit world is because you have some judgments of the spirit world. And I would challenge you to ask, like, are those judgments yours? And how many judgments do you have of the spirit world that you took on from someone else, from some religion, from some book, some stories, from TV? And it's so sad that our spirit world education is from TV and movies and books and religion, because all of that is not actually, like, well, not all of it, but a lot of that is very much manipulated and geared towards fear. You know, you're taught to fear the spirit world, fear ghosts, be afraid of it. And could it, so like, this is a big thing that comes up for people. Well, I don't want to acknowledge the spirit world because that's weird and that's spooky and I'm afraid of it. But could it be as if you have a body, right? You right now, if you're watching this, well, some beings might be watching this who don't have bodies, but you here have a body. Are you more powerful with a body or without a body? So for what reason would you be afraid of beings or spirits or entities that don't have bodies anymore? They are not more powerful than you. Actually, nothing or no one is more powerful than you unless you give them that power. And for me, I was told to be afraid of that there were spirits that were more powerful than me, that I couldn't mess with that world. And the more I included the spirit world, and the more I stepped into, okay, there is nothing or no one more powerful than me, the more magic became available. The more I got in tune with, like, the nature spirits and the light beings and teammates. And so a whole other world became available to me when I stopped buying that I was afraid or that I wasn't more powerful. So what is stopping you from including the spirit world? And what effect is it having on your life by not including the spirit world? And maybe just have a look at it. And even right now, some of you I know, like, may have already taken Talk to the Entity classes and still are not including the spirit world. I was like that too. I had done lots of classes, I had lots of tools, but I still was avoiding. And maybe just have a look, like, what are you truly doing? And how many beings, entities, spirits want to talk to you? And that's the next part of today's podcast. And I'm not going for much longer, but the next part was why. Well, what is an entity, which we talked about, is being without a body. Also, like, entities, there can be all different types of entities. So the spirit kingdom, like I said, it's vast. You can have, like, people like your grandmother or your grandfather who were people entities and aren't in a body anymore. And then you can have, like, light beings of consciousness, and then you can have teammates, and then you can also have nature spirits, spirits of the earth. You can have demon energies. You can have smoke entities. So there's all these different types of entities that, if you educate yourself about the spirit world, it will become a lot easier for you to navigate through the world. And this is why, like, why talk to entities? Because it makes your life easier. I think that's my third time saying that. But it also gives yourself tools, like educating yourself about the spirit world. You get tools in dealing with all the different entities. It's It's kind of like you wouldn't deal with every single person in the world the same. It's the same with the spirit world. So there's a lot of beings that want to talk to you. And some are people entities, some are family members connected to you, and some are not. Some are maybe more lit beings, some are maybe your teammates. So why talk to entities? Because a lot of beings actually want to talk to you. And how much actually can you also create with the spirit world? So when you get educated about the spirit world, and if you ever take a talk to the entities class, if you ever go and do a beginning class, or you go on and do intermediate or advanced with Shannon Mahara, we talk about this all the time. 4 things with the spirit world. The 4 things you do with the spirit world is clearing. So some entities just want to be cleared. Communicate, so talking to them. A lot of entities want to talk to you. A lot of beings want to talk to you. Receive. There's a lot of beings just want you to receive, and you won't. And cooperate. Cooperate is to work together jointly for the benefit of both, for a greater good. So there's a lot of like energy in all of those. Like if you were to actually really like clear beings that are asking to be cleared, communicate with entities that want to communicate with you, and the beings that want to communicate with you, cooperate with the ones that want to work with you, and receive the ones who just want to give to you, like what would that create for your life? Not only your life, what would that create for your body? What would that create for your business? What would that create for your money, for your financial reality? How much more would you have to receive if you were to educate yourself and get to work with being aware, clearing, communicating, cooperating, and receiving the spirit world? And if what I'm talking to you right now makes no sense to you and is going way over your head, but you would like to know more and you would like to get educated, check out any of the Talk to the Entity beginning classes is where you begin. So you start with introduction and beginning. And then after that, you can move on. You can do intermediate. You can go on to advanced. And there's tons of also like Talk to the Entity specialty topics. So there's like entities and addiction, entities and mental illness, entities and children, like dealing with children who are aware of the spirit world, how to educate your children about the spirit world. There's actually a Talk to the Entity facilitator. I'm going to interview her here on my Instagram next week, who's doing a Talk to the Entity beginning class with 30 kids somewhere in Europe this weekend. She's doing a Talk to the Entity class for kids only. And when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, what would it take to have this in all the schools? Like if I had been educated about the spirit world with pragmatic tools, not dramatic tools. So that's the other thing. Talk to the Entity tools are from Access Consciousness, and they're pragmatic. They're not dramatic. They actually create change very quickly, very easily. Before I found Talk to the Entities, anyone who talked to me about the spirit world did trauma and drama with it, power over, and made me want to be, and created this fear in me that I was something I should be afraid of. That never empowered me. Once I got my hands on the Talk to the Entity tools, that empowered me. So I have tools to deal with everything I'm aware of, and I don't have to go outside of me to some guru to look for the answer. So what would it be like if you grew up in a world where as a child you were educated about the spirit world and you had tools to deal with that? How much easier would your life have been if you never had to separate from the spirit world? Because babies come in and they're fully aware of the spirit world. They're aware. That's why when babies, they don't look directly at you. They look all around you. They see all the energies around you. They see all the colors. They see all the lights. They probably see all your teammates. Like they see everything. Their babies are aware of everything because they're total being, total knowing, total perceiving, and total receiving. That hasn't been beat out of them yet. It gets beat out of them when they start to go to school. They start to learn to understand the world. They start to judge, and then they start separating and cutting off their awareness. Can you imagine what it'd be like to grow up in a world where we didn't do that to our kids anymore, where we actually educated them? But first, you've got to be willing to educate yourself. So What would it be like if you educated yourself about the spirit world? What would that create for you? What could you educate yourself about that would give you more ease? What would it create for you, your body, your reality, your finances, your bank accounts, and your body if you were to start including the spirit world instead of resisting and avoiding the spirit world? And what if it isn't as woohoo and as freaky and weird as you think it is? Well, it may be weird. The definition of weird is of spirit, fate, and destiny. So, yes, it's weird, but does being normal and trying to pretend you're normal actually work for you? And I just want to give you a little example how, so some of you might be on listening to this going, but I'm not aware of the spirit world. Like I don't see things. I'm not like, so that's what you like. A lot of us have this like idea from movies again and stories that, oh, if you're like to be a psychic or to be a medium, you have to see ghosts. No, a lot of you have an awareness of the spirit world, but it doesn't come through you through your sight. So I'll give you an example. Before I found Access Tools, I was in my last year of college, and I was in Holland, in Netherlands, and we went to Rome for a weekend. I had no like education about energy at this stage, and we went to Rome, the Vatican, Italy, right? Get the energy. What went on in Rome? What was the history of Rome? What was the history of the Vatican? The priests, all the abuse that went on there, all the demonic stuff, like everything going on in Italy, in that city, Rome. We got there, and me and my friend, we did everything. We went to the Vatican, we went to Michelangelo's house, we did all of that. We saw the Pope. We even went to mass in the Vatican on that Sunday morning. But the first night we were there, we had seen the Colosseum, all that stuff. Which the Colosseum is a whole other story. If you come and take a Talk to Entity beginning class, I'll give you some more information on that. Not for this podcast though. And the first night I was in our hotel room or wherever we were, and I could not sleep. My mind was racing. We'd walked around all day. We were like so tired going to bed. And there I was, 4 a.m. in the morning, wide awake, just in the room, feeling crazy. My friend was sound asleep. I went to the bathroom. I sat on the floor. I rocked myself back and forth, going, what the fuck is wrong with me? Oh my God, I'm so crazy. Why am I so crazy? Why am I so fucked up? I can't take sleep. Why is my mind always racing? Like I was going into all this judgment and wrongness of me. That was my coping mechanism. I didn't know that then. What I know now is that was my coping mechanism to deal with my awareness, because I had no tools to deal with everything I was aware of in Rome, and all the entity activity and all the lifetimes I was aware of and all the energies there and all the spirits and all the demons and all the stuff, all the like everything that goes on in Rome, all the past, present, future, like everything I was aware of. I had no tools to deal with it. So my coping mechanism was to go to the wrongness of me, insomnia, racing mind, racing thoughts, all mental illness stuff, right? Think that I'm crazy. The people that think they're crazy are usually the ones that are so freaking aware and have no tools to deal with it. So that was years ago. I got over, and then I would just like finally, eventually I would fall asleep, probably get 2 hours sleep, wake up the next day, go about my day. And fast forward like years later, with the Access Tools, I was just in Paris, back in Europe, and I was like, okay, but with the Talk to Entity Tools going to Europe, the minute I got there, I was talking to the land, I was clearing, I was communicating, I was cooperating, I was receiving with the spirits there, with the entity awareness there. I was using all my tools, and I had so much space and ease there. And I'm like, wow, what a difference between then and now. And I know it wasn't Italy I went to, it was Paris, but still it had all the energy with the Arc de Triomphe. I was looking at the Arc de Triomphe. I was like aware of all that energy at the Arc de Triomphe, but I had ease with it because I was acknowledging and including all the beings. I wasn't trying to avoid them. I wasn't trying to exclude them. And I also wasn't trying to cut them off. When I went to the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, and it had a similar energy to Rome, with like the Vatican and the history and the religion and the, like all of that, all lifetimes and demons and angels and demonic and everything, I just relaxed. I asked what I was aware of. I asked to receive all the beings that were there. I communicated with them, and I had so much more ease. So that's like, I hope that little story just gave you a little like, okay, like what you're being aware of the spirit world may not look like what you think it looks like. And it may show up for you in ways you don't even know it shows up for you. And you won't know it's showing up for you until you actually start educating yourself about the spirit world and including the spirit world. Okay, guys, I am out of time right now. I gotta run. So thank you so much for being here. I hope you got something out of today's podcast if you're listening to the replay. I do have a bunch of Talk to the Entity beginning classes coming up online and in person in Florida. Online is in September and in person in Florida in October. So you want to check those out, you can go to my website, www.amyshine.net/events. You can also go to talktotheentities.com, www.talktotheentities.com. It's underneath the description here if you're online. And you can get, there's free classes there with Shannon O'Hara on Talk to the Entities. You can check out the other facilitators in other parts of the world. You can also check out my YouTube. I have a whole playlist, and I am going to do a free taster class coming up in a couple of weeks too. So check that out. And if you have any questions, please let us know. All right. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.